Good evening. This is CTV News for Wednesday, June 7th. I'm Denise Douglas. So glad you could join us. Well, it was a shocking and tragic crime back in 2014. A local mother accused of suffocating her two young children to death. Sonia Spoon pled guilty to murder in March as part of a plea deal. She's back in court today for sentencing. Rochelle Metzger was at the courthouse and has more from there.
The defendant, Sonia Spoon, says what happened to her two young children is a nightmare. Their slow and painful deaths by her own hands, actions she says she deeply regrets. At her sentencing hearing today, she tearfully read a statement telling the judge that she isn't well, but she's getting help. She says she's truly sorry for taking their lives and for preventing them from ever growing up. 26-year-old Sonia Spoon says it wasn't her intent to maliciously kill her two children, 3-year-old Kayla and 1-year-old Aiden, inside their Cheverly home in September 2014.
The defendant in this case committed the unthinkable.
Spoon placed plastic bags over the children's heads and tied their hands with duct tape. She then did the same to herself, but panicked and ripped off the bag. She ran to her mother's room for help. The judge today called her response selfish and says a reasonable reaction would have been to run to the children first. Instead, it was too late.
These were two children who were simply left defenseless and met, a mother who murdered them. So today, she answered for this. We believe that her sentence was appropriate.
The prosecution and defense acknowledged that Spoon suffers from mental illness, including a traumatic brain injury suffered in a 2009 car crash. So they worked out a plea deal, 45 years instead of life behind bars.
This is a thing that happens, and it happens when women are not well. Postpartum depression is not taken care of or taken seriously.
Defense attorney Miriam Siddick.
We know that this tragedy could have been avoided if proper mental health treatment had been provided to Ms. Spoon.
The murders occurred shortly after Spoon was released from a hospital where she spent 3 days under evaluation for threatening to harm herself and her children.
People knew, doctors knew the danger that these children were in. They knew the danger that she was in. She was suicidal, she was homicidal.
If you go to a hospital, if you go in front of medical personnel or educators and say that you intend to kill your children, well, then you should not be permitted to go back home without notifying social services agencies. That's what happened in this case.
Also, Brooks says a bill seeking to close a legal loophole and require state officials to report threats of violence against children failed to pass the General Assembly. So she says,
we have to, as a community, as families, do as much as we can to make sure that our children are safe.
Sonia Spoon told the judge today that she doesn't know what's wrong with her, but she says medication is helping. She'll have to continue with treatment as part of her sentence, which she'll serve at the Patuxent Institution, a maximum security prison that holds inmates with mental health issues. In Upper Marlboro, Rochelle Metzger, CTV News.
Now, Rochelle tells us that Spoon will have to serve out 80% of her sentence before she's eligible for parole. Last week, 2 Oxon Hill High School students say they were bullied by a school administrator during their graduation ceremony. And board member Edward Burroughs says he was threatened with arrest the next day while trying to attend another commencement. County Executive Sherman Baker recently responded to the incidents.
Okay, are you
the superintendent and the board set up protocols on how graduations are conducted. Every board member knows that. And so I have all the confidence they're going to make sure that that structure is adhered to. Because you remember, the main thing about our graduations is the students. That's where the focus has to be, not the politics or what goes on outside of there. And there is a reason why they don't let every politician speak. Because, we ran into long graduation years ago, and that's why they're structured. And it's also at a time you want to make sure what people are going to say.
In a statement last week, the school system said speakers are notified in advance and that day of requests cannot be accommodated. It also said security staff allows no one, including board members, backstage unless they're on the authorized list, and at no time did Dr. Maxwell instruct anyone to arrest Mr. Burroughs. 6 months after FBI agents raided offices of the Prince George's County Liquor Board, County Executive Sherman Baker is looking for 5 new commissioners. The Maryland General Assembly stripped Governor Larry Hogan from filling the board seats after the panel was the target of federal corruption probe. Baker says he is looking for individuals to serve 4-year terms. Those wishing to apply must be county residents. To be considered, a resume must be submitted to the email address that's on your screen by June 26th. Dozens of trucks are being pulled off the road by state police. This is part of their annual safety check. The vehicles were taken to FedEx Field for inspection to ensure that they were in good running condition. Drivers were also checked for exhaustion. More than 400 trucks were reviewed last year. Captain Michael Geronimo says they hope to do more this year.
We're trying to help curb the amount of accidents that are out on the highway involving the commercial vehicles. So we're trying to reduce that, and with more visibility, try to make it safety for the public out here, and try to take these drivers that are unsafe in their vehicles that are unsafe off the highways.
How big of a problem is that in general to have trucks with whatever mechanical problems or just fatigued drivers?
It's becoming, more and more prevalent, in a large amount of crashes, especially around the Capitol Beltway, that with the volume of traffic that's on here. And then if you have a truck that won't be able to stop in time, then they're going to collide with another vehicle.
State police will continue their stepped-up efforts to check commercial trucks through tomorrow.